So I'm going to, I started writing this piece called Tangled about one of my favorite Bob Dylan songs, and Tangled. Every age has its prophets and troubadours, the singers of trouble, love, and the tangled story we humans make as we journey from birth to death, from the earth to the stars and back. Dylan began in the footsteps of Woody Guthrie, then veered to stand and sing his original take on the story of our generation. By 1975, the year the album Blood on the Tracks was released, and the tune Tangled Up in Blue caught the ears of so many, there was more than enough trouble with conflict in Vietnam, the Khmer Rouge massacres, apartheid in South Africa, and the aftermath of Wounded Knee, when 2 FBI agents went down. Anime Piktuakwash, the American Indian Movement warrior, was found dead, shot in the head in a ditch, gone for months. The lyrical, ballad-like poem song of Tangled Up in Blue is a kind of chorus of different lives, each crafted around a transformative moment revealed in the ordinary details out of which our living unwinds. Each story is gathered with the hook phrase, tangled up in blue, which is more than just a catchy set of words for the trick of it. Blue could be the blue light emerging temporarily after twilight to signal the dark. It is the color of the auric field, that which moves between spirit and earthliness. It is a chord that connects to us to history, the history we make within each individual story that connects us with family, a community, a country, an age, a generation. We are tangled up in blue. Dylan often changed the stanzas as he performed and recorded the song through the years, adding and subtracting. I appreciate that kind of form, as the stories are always changing. We change the way we tell them. We experience them differently as we move through time and history. The way I speak or spoke about Dylan or any artist of his age is different now than it was when I was 16 years old and my ears were young. Of his song, Dylan responded, "There's a code in the lyrics, and there's no sense of time. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow, all in the same room, and there's very little you can't imagine not happening." End of quote. In other words, these tangled up in blue lyrics make a kind of equation of memory, and memory does not stand still. It is constantly moving within us, through us, with us, without us, so that perhaps we are ultimately creations of time. Perhaps memory has created us. Perhaps it shifts time by an ache of loneliness or a sigh of awe at unbelievable beauty found at closing time in a bar at the edge of nowhere, or in the click of a key in the ignition to say goodbye to goodbye when we've just made love to a miracle. In one memory, I am at Indian school in a navy pea coat, my long dark hair hiding my face. I have a pen in my hand copying Blowing in the Wind, longhand on one of those spiral-bound tablets with green-lined paper. I copy the times they are changing, sing it to myself under the tall cottonwoods on the Indian school campus. It will be years before I find my voice. I will find it in the soundscape of my generation. We listened to the changing times on the radio, carried transistor radios, and listened under the blankets at night to the voices of history and to the singers of love and heartbreak. We played music, danced under light shows, stars, to living music whose resonant sound patterns still cling to the trees, to memory, as we tangled up in blue. We were bent by history, defined by it, even destroyed by it, but like others of my generation, beset by violence and tragedy, we were inspired by Dylan and other singers and players who lifted our spirits, who inspired us to pay attention and keep going through the story that we are making, every one of us. Dylan reminded us in his poem songs that every one of us has a story. Tangled Up in Blue could essentially be a holographic poem song, each verse a fractal of an immense story, a mirror, a memory we left behind in a diner booth. The sky is blue as I listen to Tangled Up in Blue in downtown Tulsa, next door to the Oklahoma Jazz Hall of Fame. I turn up the music. My girlhood is just miles up the road. Blood tales run through our bones like these streets made of the unspeakable. In this moment of history, we are witness to unprecedented and illegal moves to destroy democracy, to erase equality, and undermine human rights based on false premises of sexism, racism, culturalism for greed. In these tangled times, we need the words of the poets, the singers, the prophets, to move in the direction of vision and truth, away from repression and repressive acts that undermine the collective human spirit, to move away from the false stories that support the destruction of Earth, the undermining of female power, which is, in a healthy society, stands hand in hand with male power. Now, the radio I am listening to is digital. I miss the crackle of signal, the scratch of needle on vinyl, but the need for what we find in the music is the same. I bring my restless spirit, disturbed by the blood on the tracks of history, to the altar of music. Love threads through every sung vowel of becoming.